Hey guys, this is Class Wars Preliminaries for the month of May 2015. I'm potted up to 1.52 million BR. I only have a level 1 U demon at the moment, which is why my BR is as low as it is for somebody of my caliber tune. So as far as player stats go, I'm very competitive with almost all the players. There are very few that have an overwhelming amount of player stats better than my own. There are some that have much better stats, but it's not as crazy as it used to be. And so yeah, at the moment, the U demon is really what's holding me back. I get Tweety Pie on my first round, which is probably, I think, the hardest first round pick I've ever gotten before. And last month I got Ray 7 in the second round, so I guess that was probably the toughest second round preliminary fight I've ever gotten. I think what happened is they split the cross server section. So before we saw Moradin and Ermin and Stefan at least amongst the mages in the top players, and a lot of other people who ended up getting shifted over to a different section. So the reigning champ, Moradin, who's won 5 times in a row now, is actually not competing in this Class Wars with us anymore. I'm pretty sure he'll have a really easy time of it in the section he's in. They seem to have a much lower average BR. But because the sections were split, there's fewer people in this section, and so there's a greater chance of getting the stronger players. So top 16 or top, at least top 100 players in the earlier rounds. And that seems to line up with what all my guildies were saying. Most of them had been saying this is the toughest preliminaries they've ever had, and there were several people, including some of my guildies, who got into finals with a 10-5 win record. So usually it was, you have to go 11-4 and then have enough BR to get into finals, and then a safe bet is definitely 12-3. But this time around, it looks like 11-4 will for sure get you in, and then 10-5 it goes by BR. So got some easier rounds. I don't really know how the matching works. I'm very surprised that I saw some of the people I did toward the later rounds, because I did have a decent win record, and so I feel like the pairing system in the preliminaries has changed as well. It still seems to gradually get tougher if you win a lot, but I am just a little bit surprised that everything seems a little bit different. As usual, I bring in my Athena as one of my troops in preliminaries to make sure that my BR is as high as possible as far as my Sylph troops go. And then I had my gear on my Triton at the time, and so I just decided that I would bring Triton for this instead of Medusa. Usually you probably see me with Medusa as one of my troops. I do in the finals end up using Medusa and Triton, but here it's my Athena has the next most BR. And of course have my Hecate and Nutella as my main Sylph. She definitely has the most BR. I have 2 second evolution Sylphs right now, Goddess of Prosperity, the wind one, and Hecate, the dark second evolution. But the Hecate is the only one that I've built up with Advanced Sepulchrum and Advanced Mahra. So she's by far my highest BR Sylph. So at the moment, there's no real option for me to really push to use the other Sylphs. Maybe in the future I can figure it out. I could potentially risk things and try and use like Cerberus or yeah, probably Cerberus would be the only one I would go with. I think a light pet might be a little iffy as far as versus mages, but I could try something like that. But at least for now, I'm definitely going with a dark pet. And then the Athena Triton combination turns out to be not so great in prelims. I have some tougher fights later on, and it really does not work out so well when you face people with, a couple of Medusas. So for sure, I still think that Medusa Triton is probably one of the best Sylph troop combinations, and then I think Medusa is also very good. Another one that I see sometimes is Hercules and Athena, which I think is not bad. The Sylph troop seems to deal more damage than you would expect them to when they have that 30% MDEF reduction, but still not great. Here's Asha, and I always mix up Asha and Asher, which is I feel bad about, so I thought I was getting myself into a fight that was much more difficult than it was. But Asha is still a pretty strong player. I think maybe caching a little less. I feel like previously I may have struggled with her a bit more. I'm just looking at guild chat, and there were definitely some surprise wins and surprise losses. You know, I have my fair share later on of, I guess, very difficult fights. It would be nice to get a better idea of all the finalists through prelims, but then again, I'm not sure I would really want to fight, you know, Ray, Solara, Lala, Gruntar, and Chilimac, and the whole slew of other people who are very strong. But that said, pretty much every prelims this time around, I would say I get like 5 people who are in the top 16. At least 4, but probably 5 people. That's just got a fire pet. And again, you know, our Sylphs inherit our resistances, so at the moment I think I have Dark, Electro, and Wind. That probably wasn't the smartest idea, you know, you probably want some fire in there or something, but it was preliminary, so I wasn't, you know, fussing over which crystals I put in too much. As long as I have Dark, it should be fine. And here's Chilimac. This fight I just get bowled over. It's pretty hysterical, actually, in my opinion. One thing that I just did not notice when I was fighting Chili at the beginning is I saw the one Medusa, but because the kid is covering up the other pet, I wasn't totally sure what his second one was. I kind of assumed that he would just bring water or something like that, but he ends up having 2 Medusas, and that ends up being big time trouble for me later. And here he has an archer kid. I think the archer kids are not bad. You know, I think it's just a personal preference that I've been waiting to get an oracle before I build one of my U-demons. I do like the oracles because they seem to really take care of themselves well. And so here's where I get into trouble, is I wait for that heal. I don't push into Sylph mode very quickly. I'm also lagging a lot here, but he keeps me out of Sylph mode by using that awe, and then his Medusa and his Goddess of Prosperity use Steal on me and really make it quite difficult for me to get into Sylph mode. Here I don't know why I just didn't hit spacebar, but either way, this was not going over that well for me. I was hoping for a stun, I guess, but yeah, got myself into a bit of trouble with these Medusas, and he played really well here as well. So yeah, Chilimac is one of those people where I feel like as far as BR goes, he just wasn't up to snuff previously, so he was always a good player, but he just never quite had enough to be super competitive before, and now he's really built up quite the tune, so he's very strong, and so I think things are really adding up for him, so I wouldn't be surprised if within the next few months he really tries to push for a Class Wars win or something like that. I'm sure he'll do well in the finals, but yeah, I think at least right now he's looking really good. Here's Garruk, another one where I feel like maybe he just looks like so familiar to me, or at some point in time he could probably beat me up. I don't know, my whole sense of Wartune history and who was good at what point and who was really strong is just, memory fails me. I've just played this game a little too long. Everything gets mixed up. And here, I don't know why I didn't just go into Sylph mode, but I figured I would just chance it and try and get that Centauria, but I end up giving him that heal, which is not so great. My train seems a little bit sleepy here. I don't know why, but it takes a full turn to get into Sylph mode. I guess it's not the end of the world since that Delphic that Garruk only hit my Athena and myself, and so didn't deal any damage to my water Sylph. But even so, I'm just confused by that. That was one of those bugs that happened a lot in the beginning when we first had Sylph troops, but I haven't seen it recently. But oh well. I think in guild chat, my archer guildies were saying that they weren't seeing a lot of light pets in amongst the archers, probably all dark and electro. But I think a light pet isn't a bad idea. I still would prefer dark, even though people protect against it more. I think it's a little bit more versatile. Looks like Leela is actually pretty sturdy. You know, one thing that I think mages really need to look out for, and is something, it's the reason why I haven't changed my dual stat gems at all yet, is you actually have to watch out for the MDef now, especially in class wars. You know, with the dual gems, because everybody has, you know, probably a full set of magical attack gems, pure magical attack, and then a set of magical plus crit, the attack stats are really high, so people are taking a lot more damage just in class mode. So even, you know, with a thunder, I can deal quite a bit of damage to some of these stronger players, even people stronger than Leela. And so at the moment, I think it's pretty good to be careful and try and build up your defense where you can. Probably the mount stats would be a good place to get that kind of BR. But yeah, I think you know, people underestimate defense a little bit, probably including myself. I prioritize HP over defense most of the time, but definitely want to be careful now. There are some really scary attack stats, you know, well over 200k magical attack amongst the best players. Speaking of some of the best players, here's Solara. Yeah, my little gray ghost. I get that a lot when I'm lagging, and the recording lag is probably not doing so great. Solara thinks that I've built up an archer U-demon, I guess, when he saw mine, but it's still level 1. I think I let him know. And he has an archer U-demon that's pretty sturdy. And he has a 3 Wind Sylph combination. So how many stars are on that? Okay, so 5 stars on his Goddess Prosperity, so a very nasty Wind Sylph, and then 2 Medusas. So he's just going whole hog Medusa, which I think is great. It's something that I've done before, but when I'd use that in finals, I really didn't have the dark resistance to pull that off. So maybe he can manage. I think he's being a little bit too careful against me. You know, he does have a BR advantage on me, and I think he really could have pushed a bit. You know, I was trying to be patient and wait things out and see what I could get away with, see if I could stun him or something. And he was definitely trying to stun me as well, try and stun and then get into Sylph mode. I could tell that was kind of what he was going for. But I think he was a little bit too timid, actually. And I don't say that about most players, because I think most people who use a dark Sylph, you know, they end up rushing too much. You know, usually you would want to go second into Sylph mode, but I think with 3 Medusas you can play a little bit more aggressively. And by not going into Sylph mode earlier, I think I end up with an advantage. You know, he's allowing me, if I can get the drop on him and get into Sylph mode and deal a good chunk of damage, then I could potentially kill him. So I still have that troop, but I end up going with the Devour Soul. If I go into Sylph mode, I usually use Devour Soul and then use the AoE. It looks like one of his Medusas was slacking like my Triton was before, so clearly some problems there. I just barely get that Endless Engulf, the Delphic out, before his steals become a really big problem. So I almost have him here, but he ends up getting a heal rune, I think. So yep, there it is. And I don't have a heal rune, and here comes his Delphic. So I thought for sure I had lost already. I thought I was going to be wiped out. but the timer is almost up and my troop lived, and so I actually won on damage dealt against Solara. And so yeah, that was really lucky. I died. I should have lost that fight, and in any other circumstance, if it weren't a timed fight, I would have lost. But he didn't quite edge me out that way. So, you know, those types of wins happen. Is, you know, I've lost that way and I've won that way. So it can go both directions, bad and good. When I was typing this saying, oh, somehow I beat Solar, I don't think at the end I realized that my troop was alive. I had to look back at it because I thought for sure that troop was dead, and so I was a little bit confused at the time. My poor little U-Demon dies so fast. I do plan to use the U-Demon in finals this time around. Last month I didn't bring a U-Demon, but I kind of just want to see what happens if I bring the U-Demon, and it will help my BR a bit, so that, well, I don't know. I don't actually think that the U-Demon is going to be useful for me in finals, but I feel like I should bring the U-Demon just for the sake of saying, okay, I tried it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like especially the knights and the archer kids, they tend to eat up a lot of heals from mages and stuff, so it's nice that you can get a good Centurion and things on them. But I'm much more interested in those oracles that seem to just heal themselves and take care of themselves in that respect. Here's a nice Medusa Triton combo. The kids seem to, not the kids, sorry, the Sylph troops seem to be dying really quickly. You know, I think it has to do with those really big attack stats. You know, everybody gains so much magical attack from the dual stat gems, and so it just, you know, one one death harvest, so not even a Delphic AoE, but just a regular Sylph AoE, and they're dead. Here's Ray 7, who is just really scary. I mean, one, dealing a lot of damage to me in Sylph mode. Okay, I mean, that's huge. It might not look like a ton at the time, but I mean, I have a lot of HP and she's dealing a lot of damage with that thunder, so it's looking quite scary for me. I was already like, okay, I'm in trouble the moment I started to see all this. You know, whenever I need to actually use a restore or get healing in class mode, I know it's going to be a rough fight. She has Goddess of Prosperity, so the third version of the Wind Sylph as her main, and then a Medusa and a Triton as her troop, so pretty nice combination. So she has 2 steals between all the Sylphs, plus a little bit of healing, so I like that combination quite a bit. No idea why her kid is named Friday. I don't know, that's probably a reference to something. I mean, other than a day of the week. So I was trying to wait it out a little bit and see if I could get her to go into Sylph mode first, but even so, I just all of this just makes me, even just looking at this now, I'm like, oh, I'm in deep crap. So yeah, an overwhelming amount of BR. It definitely feels more overwhelming than when I played Solara. So pretty scary. Here's the steal. Steal, I would say, is probably the best AoE in the game. Best area attack. Really OP. I mean, not for PvE stuff, because, you know, you don't really steal a lot of awakening points from monsters and stuff, but definitely for PvP, I would say that steal is the single meanest AoE. So yeah, I just got creamed there, so Chili Mac and Ray really taking me out badly. Solara was about to kill me, but just didn't quite manage to finish off my troops. Here's Asher, who does usually very well. I think later on he mentions to me that he doesn't really have dark dimensions on at the moment. I have 2 intermediates, so I mean, my dark resistance isn't great, it's just not bad either. But if you don't have dark resistance, it's quite a rough time in Mage class wars. I'm just letting him know who I lost to quite badly. You know, most of the top players, even if we don't know each other super well, are quite friendly with each other, and some of them are actually very good friends of mine. And I've gotten to know them over years of playing Wartune, so it's quite a friendly bunch. I think people imagine that some of these top players are very, you know, sort of pompous, you know, trolly, you know, people who just are going for the wins, and they are competitive people by all means, but for the most part, I find them all very nice. And there's that awe. Every time that somebody uses an awe and steals my awakening and keeps me out of Sylph mode, I think, oh, maybe I should put that back on my spec for my Dark Sylph. And I never do it. You know, I haven't quite gotten to the point where I think it's that great of an idea. I am in a bit of trouble here, but again, because I have better dark resistance, I'm able to hold out a bit here. These are one of those times where I start to regret that I don't have a heal rune, but having an amnesia is still great, and I would never go into anything PvP related without a guardian rune. Going into TOK Nightmare without a guardian rune, totally fine, but going into an actual fight with people, it's like a security blanket for me at this point. So I didn't time that Delphic too fantastically since Asher still had his guardian rune on, but still managed alright. And here's Lala. I think Lala has the most BR out of the bunch. Lala's in TOK Nightmare, so on a daily basis, she's the strongest mage as far as BR goes out of the bunch. And I was definitely feeling like she was hitting hard here. I don't think she thunders quite as much as Ray was, so she didn't deal as much damage to me in class mode, but I think she's quite powerful. I think Solara might actually be a little stronger than her in general, but Solara's dark resistance seemed a little low that fight, and I would worry for any player who doesn't have good dark resistance in the finals. Oh, and Lala named her U-Demon Totoro. Who doesn't love Totoro? He's all cute and gray and fuzzy and... oh, that's cute. So always trying to be a bit patient, especially when I see these stronger players. You know, you don't want to rush into Sylph. You know, you really only get one go with the Sylph for the most part. There's very few times where, especially now with such high attack stats, you're not going to be getting into long fights with these Sylphs. So it's really better to pace yourself and see when you can get a good opportunity. And the worst happened, which is Lala got one of her stuns through with Ice Bolt, and Lala's influence must be much higher than mine since it's a 3-turn stun. So I'm pretty much done for here. So one more turn left on that. I try and sneak into Sylph mode just to say I got into Sylph mode, I guess, but not much good else. I mean, otherwise. Another 2 Medusas as troops. So people really like the 2 Medusas for troops, which, I mean, if you can control your opponent's awakening points, you can win for the most part. I mean, unless there's a huge BR discrepancy, and you can overcome a huge BR difference by being able to control your opponent's awakening and when they Sylph or how long they can Sylph for. So that's the big advantage of using 2 Medusas. So that's the end of it. Preliminaries over. I ranked 15th in prelims, so I was 12-3, and then it's stacked up by BR, which as far as everybody who's went 12-3, I'm probably lower BR than them, and so I ranked 17th in BR, which means I was 1 spot away from getting into Warlords Hall. I was hoping to get into Warlords Hall, even though I know that I would be beaten up in there if I went, just because you know, getting 16th or any place in Warlord's Hall, I would get more glory crystals than than I would in Warriors Hall, even if I get first. But that said, it's okay, and I'll just have another go at Warriors Hall and then really push for Warlords Hall next month. So anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Take care and have a very good day.